You're very welcome back to this next episode of Platinum Property Training's podcast. We have an amazing guest lined up for today. We have Mark Fennell, which is an esteemed high-performance life coach, a best-selling author and a mentor with an impressive 20-year track record. Renowned for his deep understanding of the human mind, the psychology and the performance. He has worked with many global corporations, individuals and teams. His unique insight and proven strategies have made him highly sought after, and he is regularly requested to appear on TV. We're delighted to have him join us today in Platinum Property Studios. Sit back, relax, take plenty of notes, and listen in. Welcome to Platinum Property Training's podcast, where we will be talking about business, money, and let's not forget the economy, real estate, and bringing in real inspirations. These are people that are doing some great things in our world. Like, share, add this to your playlist, and subscribe to keep track of our updates. Okay, you beautiful people, sit back, relax, let's listen, and let's get down to business. Mark, you're very, very welcome to Platinum Property Training.
Thanks very much for having me.
How are you going?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on here. And I love your setup, by the way. You do a fantastic job. So well done, you. It's not easy. But listen, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So reason why we tried to go hunting you down is normally in the property career and in my own career and many people that are involved in Platinum Property Training, we deal with setbacks. We deal with major setbacks, and sometimes it can scar the business and it can scar you as an individual. So hopefully today we're going to try and get around a bit of a couple of problems when you do have setbacks. You do have major setbacks in life, and we're going to try and dig into a bit of your knowledge to try and help us move forward in our business and our personal world.
I'll do what I can.
Putting a bit of pressure on you.
No pressure. Pressure's for tires.
Yeah. So you're very welcome in. Give us a little bit of an insight of you, what you do on a daily basis and how you can help people.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Basically what I do is I work with people from a personal and a professional level. So it's the person behind the business and then it's the person within the business. So a lot of the time my job takes me to working with teams, groups, junior, senior, CEO, management, and helping them kind of get where they want to go, but they get there a bit faster and build kind of a solid foundation as we go. Most people, when they give me a shout, it's like, look, we've got this problem, we've got that problem, we've, things, whatever else. We just want to level up. And I always say to people, get a coach on board before you've written the problems. Get it from the start so that the foundation is strong. Because, you strong and slow will always get you there. Slow and steady. And I always do that. So I always say, get a coach in early. But for those that are kind of struggling or maybe ceilinged, we've hit a ceiling, we can't seem to break through further. We've kind of maxed out every area. We're not sure what way to go here. I always say you'll never solve a problem with the same mindset that maybe is creating the problem. Yeah. And sometimes you got to look at things from a different perspective or call in someone that brings a different perspective, especially someone maybe, I'm fortunate where I get to see lots of sectors, Ireland, UK and stateside. So I get to see kind of like, the heavy hitters, the starter offers, the startups, different sectors. And what's amazing about, or should we say in common with them all, is mindset is key, and it's a word that gets used a lot, maybe overused, but if you can change your mindset, set your trajectory, off we go. Now, most people kind of say this is what happens to me. I'm sitting in the room, the CEO's there, and the management maybe have brought me in and say, we need this guy. And I'm talking to the CEO and he brings us out and he wants to suss me out. And I talk a bit about mindset. And I always know that they're sometimes the old dog knew tricks as well. And they're like, right, they're listening. It sounds good. I like what you're saying. But I'll always pull them in. I say, but listen, at the end of the day, I said, you're the CEO. You want to see the bottom line being raised. And they'll always go, that's what it's all about. Yeah. I said, that's why mindset's so important. Because if you want to raise the bottom line, you got to maybe change your mindset and some others possibly. And let's see how far we can break through that kind of glass ceiling. Because what most people don't realize is mindset defines your potential, not your knowledge, not your schooling, not your background. I've worked with people who are multimillionaires who left school at 16 and 15, didn't even do a junior cert, right? The point is your mindset is where your potential sits, and how far you go is indicative of, well, how do you think? I read a book many years ago, great book. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. And he says in it, it's not the size of your wallet, your bank balance, or even where you've come from. It's the size of your thinking that matters. And most people can think big, but what they don't realize, they think to a point, but it'll all come, as far as following through on that big dream, it'll all come back to how they think about themselves, how they think about on the daily, how they see themselves within the space. So that's why it'll always come back to mindset. But you got to talk bottom lines first and then bring them to mindset. And then you kind of go, okay, now I see the connection.
Absolutely. And again, in the world we're in today, I mean, CEOs have put a lot of pressure on people, and then you find yourself in a dangerous position in court and different things. You're in there trying to get the whole team to gel together and work together.
For a lot of CEOs, studies would show that emotional intelligence is really low in CEOs. They're just like, get the job done. What are you giving out about? So you got to bring that too. But the reality is, when I talk about mindset, if you look at any elite athletes, or should we say actors that have done so well, like Barry Keoghan, an actor, has done really, really well. And you've probably heard about his role in The Joker. Now you're wondering, why am I bringing this up in a business podcast? Well, let me tell you why. He saw that there was a role going, or should we say a movie was happening. And he said, you know what? I'd love to be part of that in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff, and he's done really well. And he said, I'll put together a clip of me doing a funny walk, and I'll say, if you want to do the Riddler, maybe I'm your guy. He puts the video together, walking down a hallway with a funny walk, was shot well, just made himself. He sends it over to them. They come back and say, well, the Riddler is not written into the thing, but we'd actually like you to audition for another part. He says, yeah, what part? The Joker. Now, he's an actor, but what was the difference there? He thought different. He said, I'm going to go for it. And sure, I know there's a million people from all over the planet wants these parts, but I'm going to go for it. Think outside the box. That's the power of mindset. Yeah. Even that's just in acting, but it can happen in any industry.
It's huge as well. And so what is the correlation with mindset? And again, I might just keep referring back to where I think it happened for me as well, where I got a little breakthrough. Mindset and fitness, because I remember taking it back, say, 10 years, we have two young kids. One of them was a bit of a challenge. And then one of our friends met us one day and he was like, oh, what are you doing to yourself? You're getting fat. You're getting chubby in the face. You can start getting into the gym there. And I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing the gym. I'm not doing this. I was starting to feel, I don't know, was that depression or whatever was kicking in. But I was pissed off. And I remember starting, we rang up this local gym here in Tala. We were originally in the top of Tala. And I rang up a local gym and I said, how much is a session? And he was saying 100 quid a month. And I was like, fucking not paying 100 quid a month to go to everything was against him. My mindset at the time was just damaged. Got in the doors of that place. Tara bought me a ticket for it one time, went into the door place, got completely addicted to it. Then something happened.
The switch.
Because I know there's a lot of people out there at the moment that might be like, I can't do this. I can only work for someone. I'll never get onto the property ladder. I'll never be able to do it. You sort of get dragged down with this maybe bad mindset or whatever happened. For us, for me, the switch happened. Now I got into a lot better shape. I'm getting a little bit out of shape.
You're looking well
today. But again, what is that? What happens in the brain when someone actually commits to that? Yeah,
there's I call it the switch. It's like the switch, because the light comes on, and it's like, okay, now maybe I can do this. For a lot of us, it's the inner critic, that little voice, that little, should we say, devil on the shoulder that says you can't, because look who you are. No one from your family's ever done that. Don't be getting notions. So you're from a small village, or you're from that area that's rough or whatever. Many years ago, I worked with a group. I was a volunteer youth worker initially. That was 20 odd years ago now. That's how I got into the coach. And I was working with inner city kids and teenagers. And I said, what are your aspirations? And one of them said to me, to live beyond my 21st. My mother said, if you do anything, just live beyond 21, please. Because his eldest brother sadly had passed away to an overdose the week of the 21st. And she had this fear that none of her kids would reach that far. And he said, so that was his aspiration. That was it. And I said, and of course, I'm young as well. And I'm like, you can do this. You could be anything and all that kind of fluffy stuff, which is great. Sounds great. But I was like, saying all this to him, and he's like, yeah, well, it's different where I come from and whatever else. And I really got to understand as a young person, he thinks different, and so forth. But the reason I thought different was because my family came from nothing. Like when I was born, my parents couldn't, we were living in a caravan at the back of my granny's, like Father Ted vibes, it was like, that was it. And they didn't come from money. They didn't come from a support system or anyone that had wealth, or they didn't know anyone wealthy who could kind of give them a leg up. There was nothing, but they said, I want our kids to have a better upbringing than we had. And that was a switch for them, that motivation. And I'll explain about that in a second. And we were always brought up saying, no, you can, if you want to be something, you go after it. And that constant self-belief, there was no evidence.
Yeah. They
couldn't say, because look, here's John who did it, or here's Mary who did it. There was just that constant reinforcement of, yes, you can. No, yeah, yes, you can. And it became a mantra of mine. As I used to start saying, I said, I can, I will, and I must do this.
Yeah.
And so they just put that, should we say, self-belief into us. And then thankfully, with my parents, they eventually moved to a house and did very well and, became very entrepreneurial as well. And they came from nothing to thankfully carving out a quality life for themselves and leading us to do the same. So I know what it's like. So when I met this young lad in town, I remember thinking, oh, no, I know what you're like. I said, I haven't come from the drug background, but I know what it's like to have nothing and come from an area where no one believes they'll ever get out of that area.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, but what if you could get out, live beyond 21 and become successful? I said, what would you love to do for your mum? And she said, for your mother. He said, I'd love to buy me ma a dog because of the flats, we can't have dogs. And he said, that's all I ever want to do. And I got working with him. And then with my career, took off as a business executive coach at the time. And I came out of the youth space. I'm walking into the RDS, I'm in my 20s. This is a good few years later now. And this tall fella walks over and he says, are you Mark Fennell? And he gets all glazy-eyed. He says, it's me. And he explained who he was. And I knew straight away who he was. He said, well, I got out of there. He said, I have a house now. I have a missus. I have me daughter and everything. He says, and just because you said I could do it. No one ever told me I could.
Yeah.
And he said, and he breaks down and he goes, and I bought me ma a dog. And he just, that was his thing. That was his switch, right? The point is, we all have a different thing that's a switch, but it starts by making the choice to find it at least and say, do you know what? What if I can do this? What if I can be, successful? Having the right motives. The word motivation comes from the word motive. Have the right motive and you'll find motivation.
Yeah.
Follow shall we say, what you're passionate about. Purpose will follow and so will profit.
Yeah.
Because if you love something enough, you'll be good at it. And if you're good at it, you can make a living from it, helping people and help yourself. So the reality is it's about finding the switch for you. And most people will say to me, oh, I just want to make a load of money. Going back to the CEO. Yeah. I just want to, have a load of wealth. And I said, well, you only have a load of wealth if you do the right decisions, take the right actions. And if you think the right way.
Yeah.
Because wealth follows action, but action follows thinking. And thinking is based off your mindset.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely hit the nail on the spot there. I mean, the action part, the delivering of educational side to what we do in the property space is fine. But the action part is where I literally could be in that room there going, just fucking do it. Because we've come from nothing. We had we created a couple of lucky breaks. But again, I took action straight away. And most people will take all the education in. I'm sure that's something you really struggle with, is getting them to literally take action.
It is, because most people believe that, that's not for me. Or because you see, our mindset, or the way we think, becomes limited. The devil on the shoulder, your whole life saying you can't do something because you weren't great at school. You weren't the best in the class. You weren't the fastest. I was never the fastest, nor the strongest, nor the most intelligent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I just said, but I will work with what I can, with what I do have. And it's having that commitment. I tell you what will get you further than any kind of smarts. It's consistency.
Yeah.
If you consistently make a decision and say, I want to build, security financially for my family, and that is my decision. And every day I'm going to put X amount of time into doing that. Even if it's looking at a computer and people are talking about on a screen, if it's stuff I don't understand, well, I'll watch the video tomorrow. Eventually it'll seep in.
Yeah.
Osmosis. It all starts with a choice. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, who was a psychologist in Auschwitz, and he saw the difference between his, the people he was in the camp with. He said some people would just give up and some people would have this attitude of hope. He said the same environment, two attitudes.
Yeah.
And he said, because it all came back to, you couldn't control the environment you're in. None of us can. You can't control economics. You can't control what happens. But as he says in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, great book, he says, but you can always, between the stimulus, which is the environment or what happens to you, and your reaction, there's a space called choice. You can always choose. Whatever cards you're dealt with, you choose what you do next.
Yeah.
That choice is never taken away. They could tie you up, they could blindfold you, and whatever, and you can still choose to not quit, as hard as that would be. And the truth of the matter is, people say, oh, but my age. Everyone comes up with excuses. Me age, me background, me education, all this kind of stuff. Listen, I have worked with enough people who are multimillionaires. I worked with, there's a client I work with at the moment. His kids will never have to work again and they'll be multimillionaires. That's how much wealth he has accumulated, right? He's into property. And he is at a place where, he didn't come from, should we say, clever clogs. There was dyslexia. There was all of these things. He can't sit still. He said, look, I have ADHD. He goes, an undiagnosed.
It's a major challenge for
right?
entrepreneurs.
Major challenge. He said, I can't sit still. I've got dyslexia. and so forth. Yeah, well, so did Richard Branson. There's 300 companies under the brand Virgin. Yeah. The point is, and I know people say, oh, they're great stories. Yeah, but you know the Richard Branson now. But do you know, or the famous people we look up to, but did you know them when they were starting out? The Austrian boy who became the world's strongest man, should we say the elite, the Olympian, basically, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who became the governor, who became the actor. Yeah. We know him now, but we didn't know him when he was the Austrian boy and he goes to America who couldn't speak English. Yeah. And he had an accent. He made what was, should we say, everyone saw as a negative as positive. I'm using those inspirational stories as it were, but they're still stories nonetheless. And there's loads of those stories here in Ireland.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear, I'm going to say this I say it in a caring way, I don't want to hear the excuses. I just want to hear what's your choice, what's your decision, and what's your first step. Yeah. And that's what we start with. So there's loads of reasons why it wouldn't work. But if you make a choice, well, then you've now given yourself a chance to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. And discipline obviously kicks in there hugely.
Consistency,
as well.
It's all about that.
Yeah.
It's all about consistency.
Funny how you mentioned Branson. One of our guys in our training company spent a week with him last week.
Oh, yeah.
And was showing us little, again, inspiration. Showed us little, clips coming in. He was in an ice bath with him. He was playing tennis. Amazing. But I mean, his consistency, and he's 74 years of age. Yeah. Obviously running all them different companies. He's still highly in there with them all. But I mean, he was out that door 5:45 every morning playing tennis. Yeah. So my guy, doesn't come from a wealthy background, has done very well in the world of business, twigged this shit. And he was straight out, stretching that 5:45 every morning, and bang, they were playing tennis together, but like so down to earth.
This is it.
Really nice guy. And business again has, probably scarred him in many ways that, you just need help.
You'll find, and this is it, it's having, I run an online community called Tribe, and it's for that reason. It's having people around you who will actually say, well, no, look, there's a way through this. Because you'll always get the naysayers. I worked with a girl, she started a beauty business. She's become incredibly successful. And her mother said, you don't want to be self-employed. Oh, no, you couldn't do that. No, stay working for someone 9 to 5. As she says, my mother never believed it would work. And she said, only now when I bought her a house does she believe me that it could work.
She's done it. Yeah.
But I'm telling you something from someone who's been in boardrooms with people who I would have said have more, should we say experience and wealth and knowledge than I would have thought I ever had. But I'm still in the room as their coach.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say to you, just because someone might have an accolade like CEO or business owner or success or whatever else, they're as human can be. And they struggle with the same self-doubt you do. It might be just a different story they're listening to. They listen to the same inner critic, the same self-consciousness, the same I hope this works, the same fears at night. They're on a different level. But it was there all the time. As they grow, it grows. So people can say, oh, I don't know how they do what they do. But they didn't start there.
Yeah.
They started day dot with one step, and they got consistent in making another and another.
So back to the...
Yeah.
Sorry, you're probably like this, lads, crazy.
No, listen, shoot from the hip.
Go back to the man on your shoulder, whoever's on your shoulder, telling you this, you can do it, you can't do it, you might do it. Like, I got a lot of couples in here as well. And, first of all, it's usually the woman that comes up first and go, we want to get into property. And I was like, fine. Like, we had it today. I want to get into property. And I'd say, fine. Have you got a partner? Yeah. He just wants to know about it. I know. If you're joining, he has to join. Why did he join? And I was like, two of you do it together.
It makes sense.
And it stops all the friction, because we've loads of stuff that happens.
If it goes wrong, one will get the blame quick enough.
Exactly. and you'll get I call him a dipshit with brother, because I remember in one property deal, I told you, didn't I tell you?
Yeah, everyone knows.
Shut up, you.
Do you know what? You'll always have, sorry to cut in there, but you're always going to tell people have people tell you why it won't work.
Exactly.
Start listening to ones that'll tell you it will. And the ones that have done it time and time again, because you can listen to two stories. Remember, what happens and where you're at, you can't control, but how you respond is your choice. And you'll respond based off who you're listening to. You listen to the devil on your shoulder, you'll respond accordingly. Risk averse, forget that. Yeah. That's not for me. That's most people. Yeah. That's most people. But what I will say to you, like I remember being in a room, there was 150 CEOs in the room. The wealth in that room, if we added together collectively, was astronomical. This happened in Ireland. People don't realize that there's, huge stuff happening in Ireland, and especially at the moment. Wait and you see what's happening down. Anyway, but the long and the short of it, there's 150 CEOs in the room. If you added them all together, the wealth would be astronomical wealth, right? But they're in the room, and I got them beforehand because I was there. I do a day leadership with them all, right? And we get them. There's no managers in the room. There's no staff in the room, so everyone can be open. We're all CEOs. We're all stripped back bare. Now I would do this with their managers, their staff as well, separately. But anyway, so it's a day leadership. I got them to ask the questions. This is crazy. This is hilarious. I got them to ask the questions, the pinch points, the struggles, whatever. Send them all into me ahead of this day of leadership so I can incorporate them into the leadership. The same questions they were asking, every CEO was asking pretty much, should we say 5 of the pretty much same questions without talking with each other. They all had the same issues. And the same issues that they were struggling with, the managers were struggling with. And the same issues I've seen the startups struggle with, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, the what if this doesn't work, sleepless nights, staying focused, getting a team to buy in, all of the same stuff. My point is they weren't always a CEO, but the human condition generally struggles with the same stuff, generally, whether you're the CEO or you're the receptionist at the front door. It just is a different level, a different story, but it's the same kind of pinch points. And that will tell you that it doesn't matter what position you're in, there's always going to be a negative. There's always going to be someone telling you can't. You have to just start believing, well, no, I can, because I will, because I must.
Yeah, so that's pulling, from what I'm hearing from you anyway, that's pulling straight back again to this thing mindset.
Always.
Which we keep hearing and hearing and hearing. And I know one or two things on mindset. As you know, you're very professional in what you do. You've obviously worked with huge corporations, but there's a lot of mindset coaches out there that are fucking come by my lord, and everything's going to be, I get people coming in here from England and they've done a training course in England. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You have to go and do it. Oh no, if I get up and I say my mantra at 9 o'clock in the morning to 11, I'm like, God gave you shoes with soles on them. Go and hunt the deals. And so what's your...
I hear what you're saying.
You probably see a lot of these people cross-border, because, you know, some people will see a bit of a gap and they're like, oh, I'll do that. But I mean, you seem to be result driven.
Very.
So
very.
That's fantastic for
results drive more results.
Exactly.
And personally and professionally. You see, you're working something and you have a motive and you go, I'm going to go on in this. And then you start to see results. What's the results do? It throws fuel on that fire you have. And now that's it. We won property. We're going to go to 2. We're going to go to 3. I met with Joe and I met with John and they're up to 20 on their portfolio. I can do. And that's just property. But apply that to any sector, whatever you're in, whatever your career. And yeah, I've been introduced before. I always remember and go, we have Mark here. You know, he's a coach. He's not the meditation guy. So if you're looking for meditation,
you believe.
No, I'm not against that. That's, you know, it's finding what works for you and it does a lot of good. Besides that, but there is a lot of fluff out there. There is a lot of, like, you know, say your mantras, you know, and I believe in having, you know, should we say positive affirmations and so forth. But you won't build a business off affirmation without action.
That's the problem.
Do you know what I mean? Like you can, it's like, you know, and then people talk about, if I can think it, it'll happen. No, you've got to think and do to make anything happen. And ultimately your confidence will come more by your actions than what you think. I can work with a person and try get them to be confident by what we talk about and how they think, right? That's one thing. But the confidence only shoots up massively when they take action and confront the things that they've been shying away from. Right. So if you want to be more confident, you can think yourself a certain way, but the actions you take that will bring you more confidence will 10x you as far as confidence is.
The way you say that, you're sparking shit all over my brain.
You know?
Because I said it to you earlier on, I felt it really, I left school when I was 15, really wanted to get back into an educational space, as in my education just stopped. I had this thing, you're as thick as 2 planks, you're going to be plumbing for the rest of your life. That is it. Keep your head down, you'll do well in that career. And everything about learning stopped. I was a plumber, fitted pipes. I went home. We had a good life. And that was it. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Because I was there was no mindset coaches knocking around me at the time. I'm from talent. I'm ingrained that, you know, that property world isn't for you. That's what the big boys do. And you're your little boy here that fixes them. So I got completely stuck in this mindset of a thing. But you just had to hitting something clean on the head. And it was really about me reading. I was like, how am I ever going to teach someone something if I can't read properly? I want to address the reading issue. Like 10x the thing. This thing went through the roof.
Amazing, isn't it?
So how do you identify that in your clients? I mean, there's probably loads of people going to be listening into this going, fuck, I can do it. But how do you identify that little algorithm
I suppose,
or how do you give them the confidence for it? Like?
Yeah, great question. What I always do is, I don't know, as Fiona said, my wife, she always says, Mark, you have a sixth sense with people. Like normally we sit people 10 minutes and I kind of have them sussed in a way. But I think it's just it's like you do anything for 20 years, you know, hopefully you get good at it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting with people every day, you know, in teams and groups, for decades now. Like, so you get quick at reading people and you get quick at reading what's their pinch point or what switch needs to turn on for them, fairly quick. A couple of sessions in, you have it. It's different for different folks. It's not just about motivation. It's about how they see themselves. It's like, speaking in the States, and they say, they have a saying over there. They say, sell them what they want, but give them what they need.
Yeah.
And the idea is, because if I go over and I say, listen, I'm going to work with you and we're going to raise the bar and we're going to, increase this business, but we're going to increase, because I'm very, very, very passionate about, it's not about the money for me, right? The money is the fruit of your labor, right? Yeah. For me, it's about you as an individual. I see what lights you up, and I want to make sure that's not just the money, but it's what you're doing lights you up, right? So here's my short answer. So when I'm working with you, I'll suss out what lights you up as an individual, as a person, what would make you happy, feel fulfilled, contentment, happy, all those things. That's you winning. That's what I'm looking for. And money will follow that.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
That's the way it works. So I will do that with you. But when I go to work with someone, I'll say, what do you want? They'll go, I want to increase profits. So that's what they want. So I go, well, I'll help you increase profits. But I don't tell them what they need just yet, because I know what they most likely need is a mindset shift. But if I came to you and said, I don't help you with profits, I'll help you with your mindset. Most people are like, I'll get to that, but I'll work on the profits first.
Yeah.
So
it's that's the world we're in.
Yeah. People are like, quick. But what I will say, you'll find that the switch, it's in there in your thinking. It's not skills, it's not wisdom and knowledge can be acquired, but
so that switch is in the cavity of the head. It's not in the gym. It can be triggered by anything. Yeah.
And it's about finding what it is for you.
Yeah.
It's finding what it is for you. It's like, Simon Sinek, start with why. What's your why? And a lot of people will say, it depends where you're at in life. Just security, financial security or whatever else. I will kind of go, we all want that. That's everyone's why. Let's just get a bit more, that's too vague for me. People go, oh, that's what I wrote down to have ready for you. That's too vague for me. And I understand why that's what people think. What would you, if you didn't have to work again, if you didn't have to make money, what would you do? How would you spend your year? And after you've done all the holidays and sat on all the beaches, I worked with a guy and he made a lot of money sitting in the bank, sold his company basically. And he took a year out, traveled, him and the wife, blah, blah, blah. Kids were growing up. So bought the yacht, did all this stuff down in Portugal. And he came back to me to get coached. And I'm like, what's he need to get coached for? And I've had a few fellas who are on the other side now, where they've made the money.
A few in here too.
And they say to me, because now what? There's only so many, should we say, beaches you can sit on. Yeah. When you start going, why am I here? Like, I'm just sitting here getting fat. This is no good to me. Because that's why I say, we don't focus on the wealth or building your bottom lines as much as you need to focus on what lights you up.
Yeah.
Because you'll get up on a Monday just as inspired as you will on a Saturday. You'll be highly motivated. Profit will follow that person because they're passionate, and people buy people. And what that means is I like people who are authentic, love what they do. It's infectious.
Yeah.
Get around you because I'm going to learn from you because you love what you do. You're not just clocking in and clocking out, box ticking exercise. Yeah. If I can learn from you, because that passion, what happens is people see you're passionate. Now they'll buy into you. And what happens to you is then your bottom lines get raised.
That's another
passion.
Yeah. That's 150% exactly the formula that we used in here. Not that we created it just happened because again, we you don't have to tell us to get up out of bed to go and fix it properly. It's just something we love to do.
Yeah.
And so,
that's the difference, you see.
An investor sees that. He's like, well, am I going to give my money to this person? This person?
Who are you? Exactly. You're going to give it to the guy that loves what he does, right?
Yeah.
It's like the you're getting a painter in your house and you have a painter comes in, is whistling, they say, he's a happy, we'll get him. Yeah. So here's what I say. It's like this. When you win, people go, I'd love to win the lotto.
Yeah.
And I go, because you want because that clears it. I have financial security. Right. But money is only a tool to be worked. So you have the money in the bank. What do you want though? What is, should we say, financial security for you? What's it look like? Well, this paid off. And they talk about all the bills and all that, right? Now I say, and what are you going to do with your day? After you've sat on the beaches, done the holidays and so forth. Think like that now. Yeah. Even if you're 22, think like that now. What would you do if money wasn't an issue? How would you love to spend your day, spend your week after you've traveled the world? Yeah. That's how you'll find what your passion is. You see, if you find what you're passionate about, you'll find your purpose.
Yeah.
And profit always follows a passionate, purpose-driven person.
You nailed it again because it's the exact same thing. Sorry, I keep doing this. But I'm just looking back to maybe the 100 members that are in this group and the older stock still come back to give advice or to help. For non-profitable, they're just like, I'll have a coffee with you Wednesday. I might give
Lovely.
40 minutes of their time
Yeah.
to say, look, I'm watching what you're doing. Just do it like this, this, and this, and bang. And I'm like, he has the money
He doesn't need to be there.
to be in Florida
Yeah.
and nowhere in Tala, sitting in a training room
Yeah.
with 25 people.
Yeah.
But his passion is still in
Absolutely.
his body, and he can't take it out. Like, the money isn't going to take it out. Nothing is going to take it out from it. It's just there and it's ingrained.
This is the thing. We're driven in school. I think I'm not blaming schooling systems, but we're driven, go qualified, get a job, make a few quid, roof over your head, get a mortgage, and away you go. And that's the kind of the should we say, the template that we're all sold.
The trap.
But it is it's so limiting. I would much rather say to people, I'm not saying everyone needs to be a business owner. No, that's an imbalance too. That's all one way and not the other. You need a balance. It's about what are you actually really passionate about? Get into the weeds and really figure out what is that I actually love to do. Because when you find out what fills you up, what makes you feel fulfilled?
I mean,
put you on the spot now.
No, you're 100% right. So again, I'm just going back to my personal information. I used to cutting grass, cleaning out drains. All these other people were like, "What is he fucking doing?" I remember one particular woman on our road saying, "I'm gonna have to tell Maureen, which is not with us anymore. With 6 kids in our family, but I'm gonna have to tell Maureen now. He's putting his hand down his drain and he's trying to do this to create money. It wasn't about the money. We got the money, he didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But again, fast forward to 20 years on, I bought a house in that road. And I bought a house with a creative strategy that her son will never do because she body coddled them. Whereas Maureen let me a little bit loose to try and find out. So for me, it's creating stuff, and I love the hype in creating it. Once we do the deal, everyone vanishes. I don't know if they vanish because they're like, "Oh, fuck, I'm not at that level now. I just go back in here to the mist," or whatever happens. And that always, and I said it to the ex-banker that was on here as well, it's a massive drive up to that. You get it? And everything vanishes. You're like, now I have to do it again.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just creating something that I was completely and utterly punished with education that I couldn't do. And now I can do it. And I can do it as many times as I want.
So it's job satisfaction, sense of purpose, results at the end. It's all that drives you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Again, we'd have enough income coming in that I don't have to do any more of it.
Yeah.
But I fucking really enjoy it.
So what happens normally is you'll find that it's now helping you, but then it's the guy you say who doesn't need to be here, could be in Florida, but he's coming in to meet a coffee.
Yeah.
What tops him up now is imparting that knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's that sense of I'm getting up to date to go and help someone, whatever. Because what I always say is, don't just think about you, think about others as well. Do you know?
Yeah.
What can I do to help me? Start with your own family, of course, your immediate family. And then you never know what might come to help and impart knowledge. But the point is, when you find what tops you up, it might change what tops you up in time. You might used to like doing this, now I do this. But it's about doing what fulfills you. And I know that sounds kind of, fulfillment, it sounds very big, but it's very straightforward. You need to be doing something that kind of tops you up. Not every day is going to be a garden of roses. They're going to be part of that job that you don't like. That's normal, that's natural. But do find out what you're fulfilled at, because if you want to make the most money in your life, well, then pursue your passion, and that gives yourself the best chance. That's a fact. Anyone who's super successful was very passionate about it. The passion had to be there.
You're going to get punches.
You're going to be knocked, and the passion is what keeps you going. It gets you in the ring again. Just because I lost the last doesn't mean I'm out.
What do you see? Because you've worked with really, really, I know we were talking before we came live here, and you've worked with a series of really, really, really professional people.
Yeah.
What's that one line you see? When you walk in that room, closed door, he's the exact same as that other CEO.
Yeah.
What is that? Sorry, I can't pick the word for it. What's that trend?
The trend, or the kind of the thing that's in common with a lot of them. It's a really good question. I think but the answer is probably yeah.
Are they all different?
They're all different, but you know what? There's a self-belief there.
Right.
Not an ego. Not like I'm the best.
Yeah.
Because the doubt is there too. The fear is there too. All those things are there. But the real thing that sits with most of them is just not giving up and a belief that I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And
that is the common thing, because no one has all the answers.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's going to happen economically. And look, don't take any risk and then stay at home. You know what I mean? That's great, but you'll end up being depressed. You know what I mean? In time, it's that having a self-belief and saying, I can't control, going back to this was the stimulus and their reaction, can't control what comes at me, but I can control whether I give up or not.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of it. Now, my own story, I know I talk about it in the book a lot, so I won't bore you with all that, but I was in a place, that's how I understand this stuff, because I was there myself.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, how am I going to get through, things in our life that I've gone through? And it's just saying, I don't have the answers. I don't know how. I'm anxious. I'm scared. I don't know what's next. But I ain't giving up. I'll tell you that. And I'll still get up tomorrow, and I'll get up the next day, and I'll keep going. Even if I don't, as I say, even if I have to look at a computer screen and I don't understand what they're talking about, I'm going to keep showing up. And I know that sounds simple, but that's what it is. It's like everyone's out running now that it's sunny. Yeah. Show me the runners in January. They're the real runners. Yeah. They're the people who get results.
Yeah. So would that be the change of you going from, say, like a fixed mindset into maybe a growth? Because I hear
100%.
all these, why, how, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to fix that? Or if you're dealt with a big blow and you're like, right, relax. Because again, if you're a CEO, your team are looking at you all the time.
Yeah.
You have to try and lead everyone out of this bit of a storm. But
yeah.
And that's sometimes I can find my brain going, what am I going to do? Who am I going to lean on? I'm looking at million miles an hour stuff going through your head. But I think for anyone that may be coming from like, probably now I'm no expert in this. That's why you're here today.
I love it, yeah.
But a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, is that them changing into that? Should that be something that they should say, okay, this change is now beginning. Something here is triggering this.
Remember I talked about, we're conditioned to go get qualified, get a job, bum, bum, bum. Yeah. There's kind of a fixed template when you think about it. It's like, oh, that's where security is, and that's what the purpose why I'm here. That's not the purpose why you're here. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's part of what you do. It's not who you are. And in the book I talk about identity is a big piece. Growth mindset is basically, it begins with making a decision that I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to smash through the limits. It's like for a muscle to grow, it has to tear first.
Yeah.
And the best lessons you and I have ever learned are the ones we didn't sign up to learn.
Yeah.
But we learned them nonetheless.
We learned them on the way.
You know what I mean? Like the toughest thing that ever happened to me in my life, there's a couple of things that happened. The toughest things, never thought, how will I get through them? Had no one to kind of back me up and didn't know what I was going to do. But he said, but I'm not going to give up. Just I'm not going to give up. There is a way. And I'll talk to other people who have to, and I'll ask people for advice who might know. And it's just not giving up. And when you don't give up and then you start to go, jeepers, we don't do this enough. We don't look back enough and go, look what I got through.
Yeah.
God, I remember feeling how the night before that thing happened, or when I got that news, I remember how that felt, but I got through it. And start reminding yourself of your wins.
Yeah.
And let that be the message you listen to.
Not these huge wins that you got.
No, the little wins.
The little wins.
Because when you start to see what you've gotten through and how far you've come, and having that, I'm not going to give up no matter what, which is very simple, but very, very hard when you're having a tough day and you're not in the mood, and I'm not going to give up. That's how you cultivate a growth mindset. Yeah. Because that's how the muscles are tearing, but you keep working them and they're going to grow over time. Won't see it at the start.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds simple, but the reality is I'm very results driven, because I know if I want to help someone reach their full potential, like high performance, as we call it, we have to look at the individual. We have to look at how they see themselves and where they want to go. But like everything, it'll always come back to the decisions they're making every time, the conversations they have every time they get rejected on a sales call.
Yeah.
Are they having that? Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, because you never making as much sales. Oh, you're not as good as them, or whatever else. Well, sometimes it's the hare and the turtle. That story of the race. Slow and steady wins the race. The turtle wasn't the fastest, but the turtle was consistent. That's the moral of the story. And it's certainly true for life and business, for sure.
That's brilliant. Again, Branson talks about this thing, and I know we were talking about earlier on, Branson doesn't talk too much about his early days, because I'm sure he was crazed man trying to get all these different adventures to work. He probably wasn't as placid as he is now, and entrepreneurs are like, oh, Richard Branson keeps it out and cool and calm. Sure, we would have.
He was a go-getter.
Sure,
he was getting arrested for tax issues because he was bringing records in from Europe and all sorts. He was a go-getter.
It was crazy because I tapped into this when I knew you were coming on. I was like, I better tap into the world of business again and a few different things. But anyway, I ended up listening to a bit of Branson, and I keep hearing him saying, and you've worked with these big.
Not Richard Branson now, but yeah.
150 CEOs in Ireland. I mean, that just wakes people up a little bit to show what type of a caliber of person.
But they were there. This is what I want to say. Sorry to interrupt, but they were there because they wanted to smash some ceilings. They wanted to go, well, what's next level? What are we going to do next year? And I always tell people, don't think in 12 months, think in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
If I put a gun to any entrepreneur's head and said, you have 12 weeks to increase your income by 10%, and a gun to your head if you don't. Oh, they'd make it happen.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, that's motivation.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Not the right motivation,
No,
but
I've
it'll
heard-
certainly
yeah,
work.
It definitely works.
But yeah,
He talks then a lot about, which would probably will be difficult for someone listening in here because he's at a completely different stage of life. But maybe he talks about this notepad and taking notes all the time and listening. Just shut up and listen. How important would you see like big CEOs doing that type of thing?
very important. And they do it. Like when I'm talking to you, I'm taking notes. We're talking away. I'm thinking what we're talking. You know, that's the way I work. I've been like that. Because at the end of the day, you've 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should always be listening twice as much as be speaking. But you'll never. What happens is fixed mindset says, "No, this is the way. No, this is how you do it. Well, they don't know what they're doing. Blah blah. Yeah, show me fixed mindset, and I'll show you the limits on your company and you. You know, fixed mindset is fixed. It's rigid. It doesn't expand. It can't think beyond. It's like the horse with the blinders on. You're seeing one way. Well, if that way doesn't work, what are you going to do then? Growth says it's this way for now, but I'm ready for the move if I have to pivot.
Yeah.
You know, it's taking notes and it's learning. It's learning. I wasn't a big fan of school, right? I did okay in school, but I wasn't a big fan of school. Some topics I loved and some I didn't, right? So when you find what you're passionate about, learn about what you're passionate about, it'll be a lot easier to pick up a book about it because you'll love it, right? Yeah. But my point is, take the notes, highlight the stuff. I never read a book without a highlighter, you know, or Kindle or Audible, whatever. I'll always put notes. You can do it with Audible as well. But I'll always take notes and I'll always revisit the notes. And if I'm a bad day or stressed or whatever else, I'll get out an inspirational book and I'll just look up the highlights. Yeah. Get me back in the zone, be your own coach. The point is, we never stop learning. You stop learning, you stop growing. I know no one likes to hear that, but it's true. Yeah. You know, because what worked economically 15 years ago is not working now. It's different. It's changed. The goalposts move all the time. Whatever sector you're in, you know, AI coming down the tracks, no one saw that 10 years ago. So always be taking notes, always be learning, because when you learn, you see opportunity. Yeah, because your eyes start to tune into things. You know, it's like when you get a car and if you get a white car, all of a sudden you're seeing all the white cars, on the road because you're tuned into it. Yeah. So when you're going into an area, soak it up, eat it up, because you'll start then seeing opportunity.
Absolutely.
The fixed mindset won't.
Okay, lovely stuff. Take me back a little bit into the, I know I heard you speak about two major things that I took a note on as well. You've got like a training, you've got your own little group.
Tribe, we call it.
Tribe, sorry. I couldn't think of the word. Tell me a little bit about the tribe and then tell me about the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Tribe, basically. So there's only so many hours in a week and I can only coach so many people. So I said, you know what, I'm going to set up a group, make it cost effective as well, because, you know, coaching can be expensive. So I'll make it cost effective for people. And it's an online group, online community. And I coach them 2 masterclasses per month. And it's all about, you know, self-development, growth. It's all about mindset. That's it. It's mindset. If you love mindset, that's it.
Well, you've seen it work. You've seen it work.
You know, well, I know it works. It's a game changer. Change your thinking, change your life. That's true as anything. But so it's all about that training and so forth, twice a month. But then there's a chat group, and then people can DM me who are in the group for support. So Tribe, it's currently not open to the public. So if you want in, DM me.
Okay. So again, and sorry, the reason why I'm asking this is I know this shit is really, really important, and I see people plateau. Great business owners plateau, and I'd say,
all the time,
how did you create that and you can't create this?
Yeah,
because they have a lot more baggage on board, and I have no speciality about other than get the fucking job done. And I'm not a person that, but they would probably, if they can, tap into your coaching business or your tribe, and then bang, they go. It works for me because I get better results.
Bottom line,
they can help themselves grow, because sometimes it is just I can't go in and figure out their mindset. Mine is completely different than everyone else's, and it's not my profession.
Yeah. People say, what is a good coach? Well, a good coach asks the right questions. That's sometimes what makes a good coach. I don't give you answers. So what that means is, I'll obviously help and coach you there, but I don't say, right, you need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, I'll work with the person so that they become their own coach. Do you ever know the old proverb, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime. True. That's how I operate. So that, you know, what they have sticks with them and they become their own coach. They understand themselves, not me just telling them the answers. So they kind of figure out a trajectory. So with the group Tribe, a lot of business owners in it and so forth. But I have a lot of stuff like that I don't put public because just the numbers would go astronomical because I've a lot of, you know, people who'd want in. But if you're listening to this podcast and you want in or whatever, hear more,
drop me a DM.
DM me on Instagram or get in touch through the website, markfennell.ie. The book came about, it's called Breakthrough. And it's very much around personal development and mindset. And Gil, the publishers, approached me and they said, we think there's a good book in you. We've seen your stuff. Would you be on for talking? Because you meet a lot of, amazing people or whatever. We want to hear what you have to say. So they said, we got talking and
they know you've collected some serious information there.
Yeah. So they said, we want a book that anyone could pick up and is kind of easy digestible. So it's kind of easy, an easier book that way. And it's got practical tools in it for understanding yourself. So the book is basically, if you ever feel stuck within yourself as a person, if you don't know what your passion is, if you don't know what your purpose is, that's what the book is ideally for. Understanding who you are and how the mind works and so forth. So the book came about through that. I share my own stories, but then I share clients I've worked with over the years. Now we changed their names, of course, and challenges they went through. Like a really successful CEO, she's bringing the shopping in with her husband from the car. She has a business. She's got 80 staff, and a text goes off. He's out talking to the neighbor on his phone, sitting on the worktop, and it says, "See you for breakfast, babe." And she's married to this guy 12 years, two sons. And that in her moment, she says, I'd done everything right in my whole life. She said, in that moment, my life just she said, blew up. And she came into the coaching because she said, there's me working away. He was working too, but I was working away to build a life, doing everything right, bring on the holidays, doing everything right. And there he was, doing a line with this young one. So she came, her story's in the book because she had done a lot right, but she got stuck because she couldn't deal with, she's like, I could deal with it in business wise.
Yeah. So she came to you for a completely
But she says, me as a person, she said, I see myself now as the single mom and I feel like I've failed. I feel whatever. And I said to her, I said, single mom is not a negative. Yeah. And she goes, but I just feel like that's what's, I was this person. I said, no. So she went through this identity shift. Yeah. And I said, so we worked with her on that. And because she used to see these things as, what's happened was negative, but it didn't make her any less. But she says, I'm going to struggle. How will I ever get on with it? And I said to her, hang on a minute. I said, I'm going to put you in touch with some of the most happiest, successful people I know who are single parents, who've kissed a few frogs in their day, And I said, you need to change that story because as a person, so stories like that are in the book and it's different ones, different issues. How to get unstuck is what the book is basically about. It's called Breakthrough. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Look, it's been really, really good. I love getting high caliber people like yourself.
I appreciate that.
I love the way you've given us a lot of time today. Probably just on finishing up on this one, if you do, and we are based in Tallaght as well, for us, we do see a lot of people that just don't believe themselves that they can do this.
Yeah.
And like, when I try and explain you can, I have a story behind me, everyone has, but when I try and explain to them, it's coming from someone that just fucking had to do it. What would you say to someone that's out there today that might have been successful, they literally just plateaued and they sort of put themselves into a corner and maybe they're getting a little bit older and they're like, fucking my sell by date's gone. How would you reignite them to really get back on their feet and pop that back into gear?
Well, a personal story was with my grandmother. She had 19 children and 7 of them passed away. Only 12 survived. And it wasn't stillbirth. Some were still, some were lived a few years or whatever, different times, I remember asking her, I said, how did you get through it? And she goes, I had no choice. She said, because if I go down, the whole ship goes down. There's 12 mouths there that need to be fed. Yeah. And she ended up remarrying. Then that husband, he passed away. Her first husband passed away and then she got remarried. The second husband passed away. She said, I had no choice. And she's incredible. She's one of my life coaches, I always say. But the reason I say that is sometimes you need to give yourself no choice.
Yeah.
Take the plan B away. And make plan A that I'm doing this. I'm as thick as 2 planks, but I'm doing it nonetheless. Yeah. Take the choice away. Because if you leave the choice of, I can always go back to that if this doesn't work out, right? Well, then that's a little voice that voice will get loud on a bad day. When you're on your plan A and it's not working, sure, you can always go back. And then you start to go, maybe I will. That'll be easier. Of course it's easier. But I always say, and I've read this, heard it shared before, choose your hard. Which hard is going to be? Because no easy path. Tell you what's hard, living a life of shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't.
Yeah.
That's hard when you're 60.
Yeah.
Or living a life that you say, I tried every time and I never gave up, made mistakes, load of failures, but learned so much, but at least I never quit. And now look what I have. Who's going to be happier when they're 60?
Absolutely.
Right? So if someone says to me, but now I am 60 or I'm 50, I'm on the other side, Mark, now what? I'll ask them the exact same question. What are you passionate about now? Maybe it's different than when you were 25, but what are you passionate about now? Why aren't you doing anything about it? Because of my age. What kind of excuse is that? get up out of that.
Yeah.
As I say, get out of that garden with that.
Yeah.
Because I could bring you to a gentleman I met last week and he's 73, right? And I could bring and meet him. And I said, if he had a thought that way when he was 60, he made the greatest wealth he accumulated in his life, he made after 60. And as he'll say, he'll never retire. He said, it just took me out. He said, I didn't figure it out till I was 60.
And that's probably because, again, back then, there was no training companies, there was no podcasts,
Nothing.
there was no people going around like yourself, going around the world, collecting all this information off really high net worth individuals.
So what he does, he now coaches people.
Right, brilliant.
And that's how he's the best thing I ever do. I personally, I'll never retire.
Yeah.
My day might change in what I do and my week might change, but I'll never retire. What's the point in sitting at home? And so many, it sounds nice and cushy. That gets boring and that gets hard too.
Yeah.
So there's no easy. So take away choice, first of all. Both routes are hard. Choose which one you want and ask yourself, what will I be proud of in years to come, in 5 years' time that I did? Will you be proud that you didn't take action? Or will you be proud that you did? It's an easy one then. Take the choice out of it. Go, I've no choice. All A. All A or nothing. Don't make a plan B. Yeah. Burn the boats.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, look, on that note, I've had a fantastic morning.
Yeah, me too.
Again, we can, if anyone in our group wants to grab you, or maybe someone that's listening in on this podcast, they can grab you, drop you a DM on Instagram, Facebook.
Through the website, markfennell.e, click on a contact form and just fill in, what your queries are. We can talk there, or just DM me on Instagram.
Yeah.
But mention that you heard me here because my tribe is closed, but I've opened it up for people listening here today.
Yeah, no. I think I'll have to pop in there myself.
No worries at all.
Sometimes we do, when you said it earlier on as well, sometimes you can plateau and you stop thinking a little bit. I think I'm maybe starting to get near that thing where I need to, a little slap maybe off yourself.
Do you know what it is? Sometimes life's like a book. A book is not one chapter, it's chapters. And sometimes the chapter changes, but we're still writing the book.
Absolutely.
That's life.
Yeah. Well, look, you've done a fantastic job. Thanks a million for
thank you.
jumping over to property training and
thanks for having me.
Chat to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.